As soon as she mentioned the family meal at my parents' house, an unsettling wave of anxiety washed over me. Her radiant smile and relaxed tone suggested an invitation, a warm welcome into her family's fold. Yet, beneath that veneer of cheerfulness lay a tension I couldn't ignore. These dinners were always laced with subtle reminders of my outsider status. I had endured this feeling before. The polite dismissals, the condescending glances when I spoke, as if my words were nothing but a mockery of family values rather than a tribute to my own hard-earned achievements. The conversations would inevitably shift toward tales of those who had inherited wealth and privilege, a sharp contrast to my own journey of ambition and diligence. Despite years of grappling with the sensation of being an outsider, I had convinced myself that perhaps this time would be different. After all, Vanessa and I had been married for a significant stretch. Surely her family would have started to embrace me as one of their own. With a blend of hope and apprehension, I readied myself for the dinner, donning the suit she had chosen for such occasions. A well-fitted, dark ensemble that I had hoped would help me blend in with her family's refined aesthetic. As I approached their estate, its imposing grandeur struck me, a sprawling mansion designed to evoke a sense of distance and exclusivity. The lengthy driveway, flanked by statues and exotic trees, led to an entrance that felt more suitable for royalty than for an ordinary man like me. Upon stepping inside, I was greeted by the familiar sounds of laughter and the clinking of glasses, a cacophony that momentarily drowned out my internal turmoil. Enormous chandeliers hung from ceilings that seemed impossibly high, casting a soft glow over the assembled guests, while the portraits of her stern ancestors gazed down at me with an unwavering scrutiny. The scent of aged wine mingled with the soft melodies played by a distant pianist, creating an atmosphere that was both luxurious and suffocating. I soon spotted Vanessa, looking radiant in her elegant attire, standing with her mother, engaged in conversation. Her father, Richard, was busy pouring drinks for a group of impeccably dressed men who laughed a bit too heartily, as if he had just imparted some profound wisdom. As I made my way toward Vanessa, a flicker of optimism ignited within me. Perhaps tonight would unfold differently. She noticed me immediately, and her face lit up with joy as she walked over. "Hey, you made it!" she exclaimed, leaning in to kiss my cheek, her familiar scent enveloping me in a momentary cocoon of comfort. For a fleeting instant, I felt a sense of belonging as she led me to the grand dining table. But just as I reached for a chair, she paused, lightly touching my arm. "Oh, honey," she whispered, "I saved you a seat at the other table." My heart sank as I followed her gaze to a small, mismatched table tucked away in a corner, where a group of younger cousins and teenagers sat, their plates served on plastic dishes. It felt as if I had been relegated to the kids' table, a stark contrast to the opulence surrounding us. I waited for Vanessa to laugh and clarify that it was a joke, but her smile remained fixed, as if this arrangement was entirely normal. When I glanced back at the main table, I realized that no one had noticed my predicament, or perhaps they had, and simply didn't care. Conversations flowed seamlessly, wine glasses clinked, and laughter echoed, as if my absence was of no consequence to them. Turning to Vanessa, I searched her eyes for an explanation. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice slow and incredulous. She didn't flinch. Her response was quick and rehearsed. "We just didn't want to rearrange the main table. There wasn't enough room." Years of suppressed frustration surged within me in that moment. I had spent countless meals swallowing my pride, enduring the dismissive glances and backhanded compliments. Yet, despite everything, I had hoped this time might be different. I tried to convince myself that it was just a seat, that it didn't matter. But the reality was that it was more than just a seat. It was a declaration, a reminder that no matter how long I had been woven into the fabric of Vanessa's family, I would never truly be one of them. A cold finality settled over me as I clenched my fists at my sides, then slowly relaxed. I didn't argue, didn't plead, and didn't ask her to reconsider. Instead, I stepped back, taking the grandeur of the dining table, the sparkling chandeliers, and the amused expressions of those who barely acknowledged my presence. I placed my napkin down silently, turned on my heel, and walked toward the exit. I didn't scream or make a scene. I moved with the calm composure they had always expected from me. But this time, I wasn't following their script. As I pushed open the door and stepped outside into the cold night air, the wind bit at my skin, a stark contrast to the warmth inside. I exhaled, watching my breath fade into the darkness. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of liberation. I was no longer their outsider, no longer their problem. The wind whipped through my suit as I stood there, my breathing steady. Yet my thoughts raced with the weight of years of oppression. I took a deep breath, realizing I was leaving behind not just a dinner, but the very role they had assigned me. The quiet, tolerant husband who grinned and nodded while enduring whispered remarks and veiled insults. The muffled sounds of laughter echoed from within, a stark reminder of the people who had never truly seen me. I should have walked away, driven home, and let them stew in their arrogance. But something kept me rooted to the spot, a pull, a deep-seated need for resolution. Instead of walking away, I turned back. The moment I stepped inside, the warmth enveloped me again, but it felt suffocating. The dining hall buzzed with life, laughter, and conversation, while Vanessa remained oblivious to my absence. She and her family were completely at ease, her laughter mingling with the sounds of the gathering. In that moment, it struck me harder than I had anticipated. After years of trying to earn my place at this table, my departure hadn't even registered with her. I had anticipated this moment for years, the day I would finally refuse to swallow my pride. And now that it had arrived, I felt a mix of uncertainty and resolve. I had always believed our marriage was stronger than their opinions, that their dismissive attitudes didn't matter. But I was beginning to wonder if I had been fooling myself all along. As I leaned against the kitchen counter, my phone buzzed with a call from Vanessa. Her voice was lower this time, tinged with concern. "Can we just discuss this face-to-face?" she asked. I tightened my grip on the phone, feeling a mixture of anger and disappointment. Now she wanted to talk? After spending hours acting as if I didn't exist? I allowed a heavy silence to linger, letting her feel the weight of her request before I replied in a steady, firm tone. "No, when we discuss this, you don't get the last say. You had the opportunity during dinner to prevent it from happening in the first place." Her response was immediate, but it lacked the understanding I craved. "I didn't think it would bother you this much." The words struck a deeper chord than I expected. They revealed the truth of our dynamic. She had always expected me to endure, to overlook the insults for the sake of maintaining peace. It had never occurred to her that I might stand up for myself, that I might leave. I hung up the phone, cutting off her protests. I had prepared for this conversation, anticipating her defensiveness, her usual excuses and hollow apologies. But instead, she had simply dismissed my feelings entirely. Her subsequent text messages flooded my phone, each one an attempt to placate me. "Daniel, we all love you. No one meant to upset you," her mother wrote. Richard chimed in, "You're acting like a child. If you want respect, earn it." Even Eric, her brother, added, "This is absurd. Just come back and stop exaggerating." Me, the time she stayed silent while they belittled my achievements. I had always believed our marriage could withstand their judgments, but now I questioned that belief. I sat in the dark, my thoughts spiraling. Another buzz from my phone broke the silence. Vanessa again, pleading for a conversation. "I'm coming home. Can we talk?" I took a deep breath, realizing she was returning not out of remorse, but because I had forced her hand. For the first time, I doubted whether that was enough. As I put my phone down, wiped my face, and waited, I knew this was the moment I had anticipated for years. I had longed for her to see what I had been enduring, and now she had no choice but confront it. I felt my jaw tighten. To them, it was nothing. They didn't want to see the truth. They never did. Then, I saw a message from an unknown number. Caroline. Her aunt had reached out, expressing understanding. "I saw your post, Daniel. I'm sorry no one spoke up at the time. You deserve better tonight." Her words struck a chord, igniting a flicker of hope amid my simmering anger. Someone finally understood, even if it wasn't Vanessa. I let out a slow breath and responded simply, "Thank you." It shouldn't have taken a departure for someone to acknowledge my pain. Caroline replied, "You're right, it shouldn't have." I felt the weight of those words settle heavily in my chest. This was about more than that night. It was about the countless times Vanessa laughed when her family dismissed.